Hi, this is Chrissy Incognito, and welcome to another episode of my channel. Now, you might be wondering why I'm incognito. This is my alter ego that can say things that I cannot otherwise say unless I was incognito. So, thank you for returning. In order to understand more about this episode, please view the previous episode. Happy listening. Beginning of college, the end of high school, I noticed that I started to present with a variety of symptoms. I now know it to be called OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder. Now, people like to throw those terms around. Oh, don't touch my desk. I've got OCD. I want my cabinets to be a certain way. I have OCD. Now, as somebody who suffers from real, true OCD, I don't find offense in that, but I do find it to be more dismissed as a normal thing. And true OCD is not normal, meaning that it's way more than just not having your desk arranged the way you like it. It is complete, completely incapacitated when you have it. Okay, so I started to be very preoccupied with contamination and germs. And that is a huge symptom of this disorder. Okay. Now, people who just like their desks to be straightened are typically not fearful of contamination or germs. I also noticed the counting. Now, this is the part you're not going to hear about OCD unless you actually look it up. But because your mind, and at least my mind, was derailing, it was malfunctioning. I couldn't trust, and that's another symptom. I couldn't trust myself. I couldn't trust my own decisions. So, a very common example of OCD is, did I turn the stove off? Now, I think in most people, it presents as being overly cautious, right? Did I turn did I turn the stove off? Well, of course you're gonna worry about stuff like that, right? That's how fires get started. Or if I blew out that candle. And when you're going about your day, let's say you're cooking meals and stuff like that, it's your automatic instinct to shut the stove off. So you're in such an automatic response when you're doing everyday things that you don't even realize you shut it off. So people are like, "Oh, if I didn't shut that oven off, the house could catch on fire or somebody could get burned." And then you question yourself because what you did, which was probably shut off the stove, was just so natural in your everyday occurrences of cooking and cleaning up and everything like that. So it's OCD is way more than that. Okay. I'm going to use the stove as an example because it seems to be a common example that people use. And I think it's a relatable example. So let's say I was cooking something, right? With OCD, you don't trust you don't trust yourself. You don't trust um what you're thinking, how you're perceiving it. Because a lot of it is like a um a perception issue. It's almost like a thought disorder because it's just not in sequence with reality. So somebody with OCD with the stove would go back and be like, "Okay, I see that it's off. Um, okay, it's off." You walk away. Somebody with OCD sees it's off, but how do I really know it's off? That's what's going through your head. I'm seeing it's off. Suppose when I walk away from here, I'm going to remember it from 3 days ago. And that I remember 3 days ago, I shut it off. But how do I know that I shut it off today? So when I leave my house and I think back, I'm thinking back to possibly 3 days ago. This is how the OCD mind thinks. It's it's a thought disorder. So I didn't really understand the counting, but I had the symptoms. So what happens is you go over to the stove, you see it's off, and you go, okay, 1, 2, 3. The numbers almost justify what you're seeing, at least in my case. So you would go 1, 2, 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3. At the count of three, I can now associate the number with the fact that the stove is off. Okay. Because we need constant reassurance of almost like what is reality. But now you do this day after day. Now you know, well, am I thinking about 1, 2, 3 from 3 days ago? Then it becomes, okay, I'm going to go up to five because I've never done five. So when I look back at five, I will know that the stove is off. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you're like, okay, okay, let me do that again so I know I did it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Um, so there's the whole repetition, counting, double checking, thought disorder. Now, I've seen it where some people think the counting for some people can be associated with um, outcome. So some people think if I don't, you know, flush the toilet 4 times, disaster is going to happen. Okay. That's not so much what mine was. Um, the, like, usually when I use the toilet example, if it's not done, something will happen that's not relevant to the toilet, right? So if I'm obsessing about the oven, my thought is somebody can get hurt with it. It's associated with the actual thing that I'm struggling over. But counting associated with outcome is a little different. So somebody, let's say, has to flush the bathroom, flush the toilet 4 times. If they don't do that, there'll be an accident in front of their house. So really the toilet has nothing to do with the outcome. It's just that if this number counting is not satisfied, something horrible will happen. So that's I didn't have that part, but I've heard of this. Um, so I was preoccupied with contamination and and germs and everything. Um and I don't know why it presents like that, but it does, and it presents pretty consistent. So you get a bunch of symptoms, you get a bunch of characteristics, and it actually makes up a disorder. And I really don't know why it plays out like that. I don't know why everybody with OCD has the counting and the repetition and the double checking. It's just how it presents itself. Okay. So everything, I'm in college, everything is harmful to me. Obviously, public bathrooms are tremendously harmful because there's nothing but germs in there anyway. Everything. And we didn't have sanitizer. Sanitizer was the best thing to happen to somebody who has this issue, right? We didn't have it. So if you weren't near bathroom, your hands stayed dirty until you got near a bathroom. So you're in classes, you're in the library, you're in this, you're in that. And I always was fearful that me not doing something would result in somebody being harmed for the fact that I was negligent. So that kept going in my mind. I think it's a couple of things. I think the stress of college, adjusting to a completely different atmosphere, responsibility, um, that probably added to this disorder, which I was probably prone to. No one else in my family has it. They have more like the anxiety and the major depression, which I definitely have, and I'll talk about that in a little while. But they don't have the counting and the double checking and the OCD and all the other symptoms or characteristics that come along with that disorder.